Hey guys, we're going to be going over our science quiz. You're going to want to study pages 158 to 177, and the questions that I go over, you might want to go through and highlight these pages so that you know, or not the pages, but highlight the terms and definitions and things like that on the pages as we're going through it. Just make sure that you have it. So first of all, on page 160 specifically, it tells you there's vertebrates and invertebrates, and you're going to want to know what a vertebrate is and what an invertebrate is, the difference between them. One has a backbone, one does not have a backbone. A vertebrate is the one that has a backbone. Invertebrates don't have backbones. And you want to know the 5 groups of animals that are vertebrates. That's mammals, fish, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. Make sure you know those 5 groups because you're going to need to write them out. Let's go ahead and go through these questions real quick. An animal that can keep its temperature the same no matter what the temperature is outside. You have cold-blooded and warm-blooded. Okay, warm-blooded, it can keep its temperature the same on the inside no matter what the temperature is outside. And cold-blooded, if it's 50 degrees outside, it's going to be 50 degrees inside their body. If it's 100 degrees outside, it's going to be 100 degrees inside their body. Which one do you think that we are? Do we keep our temperature regular all the time, or does our temperature on the inside change depending on our surroundings? Right, our temperature stays the same all the time. And our temperature Fahrenheit, our normal body temperature Fahrenheit is 98.6, and our normal body temperature Celsius is 37. And that's kind of how you can remember we are warm-blooded. Humans are warm-blooded because we keep our temperature the same on the inside no matter what the temperature is outside. So maybe that might help you a little bit. What animal has dry, scaly skin? Now you might think, oh, fish. Fish have scales. Fish do have scales, but their skin is not dry because they live in the water. So don't get hung up on that. Okay, reptiles. Reptiles are the ones that have dry, scaly skin. You might think of like alligators, although alligators go in the water, but if they're outside the water, the skin's dry. Snakes. Some snakes go in the water, but mostly they're not in the water. Their skin is dry, scaly skin. I don't like snakes. What do we call animals that only eat plants? And you're also going to want animals that only eat meat. So the animals that only eat plants are herbivores, and the ones that only eat meat are carnivores. Now, the way you might differentiate between those two, there are some plants that are called herbs, and those are plants that maybe are used maybe in medicines or maybe even like with cooking, things like that. They're called herbs. Like you might hear maybe mom talking about she's cooking using herbs and spices. Okay, those are plants. And for those of you that speak Spanish or maybe know a little bit of Spanish, the Spanish word for meat is carne. Carne, C-A-R-N-E, carne is how you would, like the American way of pronouncing it, carne. And the kind of animal that only eats meat is a carnivore. Carne, meat, carnivore, meat eaters. It's kind of how you might want to think about that. What word means living a double life? Now, you might think of the animal that lives a double life. It lives in the water, and then it lives on land. So what animal did we learn about that lives in the water for the first part of its life, and then it lives on land for the second part of its life? An example might be like a frog. Frog is a tadpole, it lives in the water, and then eventually it becomes a frog because it lives on land. That is an amphibian. Amphibians, make sure you know that. And a couple more questions. What do all mammals breathe with? Okay, we have it inside of us. It's our lungs. We use our lungs to breathe. Okay, those are our lungs. And all mammals also use lungs to breathe. And last question. Most fish are covered with, and we mentioned this earlier, fish are covered with scales. Not all fish, but most fish. Most fish do have scales. So make sure you know those things and make sure you're familiar with these terms and things. And If you are able to get all of these things, then you should be getting a good grade on that quiz.